agonizingly close to a New Year's Eve compromise. Bad news from Washington, however, tonight. It looks like we are going off the fiscal cliff. With the deal still being worked out in the Senate, House Speaker John Boehner has decided, at least for now, not to take a final vote tonight in the House. Tax and spending cuts will kick in at midnight. Surrounding himself with middle-class Americans whose taxes would go up at midnight, President Obama had sounded optimistic this afternoon.
Today, it appears that an agreement to prevent this New Year's tax hike is within sight, but it's not done.
Senate and House leaders are working to hammer out a deal before midnight, but whatever happens before then or doesn't happen, this partisan war is sure to continue well into 2013. Now we want to bring in political reporter Rick Albin. He's been following the negotiations closely. Rick, of course, the breaking news tonight, no House vote, but there's more to it.
There's a lot more to it, Mark. You got it exactly right when you said this is going to go on. This argument, this fight, this partisan battle is going to continue well into this year, into the next, and into the next election cycle, unfortunately. But let's talk a little bit about what this really means. The fiscal cliff, we've heard about this for well over a year. So what does it really mean to you and me and the folks who are watching at home? As a technical matter, right now, not much, because here is what will happen. Tonight at midnight, effectively, those spending cuts and tax increases go into place. But tomorrow is a federal holiday. Nothing really gets done. Congress can push this limit back or this deadline back, which, as I said before, in Washington, deadlines are only a suggestion. They can push that back as far as they would like. They could postpone those spending cuts for 2 months or 2 years. They could say we're going to increase taxes on people above $400,000 or $500,000. But the vast majority of people, even though as a technical matter, taxes would go up at midnight, might never see that come out of their paychecks because there's still a considerable amount of time to deal with it. So on one hand, there is the cliff, and we likely will go over. On the other hand, it seems very possible that there could be some solution even after the fact. There is still the possibility that the cliff goes into full effect, but even if that should happen, it would only be for a relatively short period of time, I think, until the president and Congress could come back and introduce new tax cuts and perhaps some other spending measures. But right now, it looks like there's the framework of a deal that may come together. It's going to be much more difficult to get it out of the House. And as you say, they're not going to be voting tonight. What does it really mean? Well, it means a couple of things. One is, once again, Congress and the president have failed to come up with a plan, just very much like they did back in 2011. It could have an impact on the markets when they open back up on the 2nd, could have an impact when you get to the debt ceiling debate coming up later in the next 60 days or so. But it most certainly, as you pointed out, Mark, will have an impact on the political discourse as we move forward, because despite a big election that we just came through in 2012, it would appear that the same problems, the same ideological problems that keep both Republicans and Democrats, the House and Senate, and the president from coming together exist just like they did before we cast our votes back in November. Back to you.
All right, Rick, thank you so much. And earlier I spoke live with Representative Bill Huizenga, a Republican from Zeeland. You may have seen it live at the top of the 5. Now, he is optimistic that you won't feel the fallout in the early days of 2013.
Everybody's taxes are going to be going up unless we do something about it. I am confident, though, that we're going to be able to do that. And I kind of view myself and many of my colleagues as lifeguards. And at some point or another, we're going to have to go in and rescue as many people who are caught in this riptide as we possibly can and pull them back.
And we are continuing to watch all of the developments coming out of Washington, D.C. tonight. You can stay on top of the negotiations at woodtv.com. And we'll have the very latest tonight on 24 Hour News 8 at 10 and 11.